Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. I'm really excited to announce I have a new way for your department, agency, or association to get trained on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. This is by far the most affordable and convenient way to get your members trained on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. It's called virtual training. I will work with your training staff to set up a live, via the internet training for your members on the date and time of your regular department training. So, for example, you do your training on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m., well, then that's when we'll do the live training, including live interaction with your members and a live Q&A session. If your department trains on Thursday mornings from 8 to 10, well, then that's when we'll do the training. You get the idea. I come to you virtually and train your members on situational awareness. If you want to learn more about the training opportunity of virtual training, visit samatters.com. Scroll down the homepage where you see topics listed in orange under the heading Virtual Training Programs. Honestly, it can't get any easier. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you get access to a playback of that training for 60 days to train any of your members who may have missed the live training. All right, that's enough of the pre-show stuff. Roll that podcast intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Birmingham Fire Department Assistant Chief Buddy Wilkes, and you are listening to SA Matters Radio Show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 189 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. Did you know that I've been sharing the message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making in live program events for 12 years now, and have trained just over 62,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, and more. Really, this message is valuable for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. If you know someone who could benefit from this training on situational awareness, just have them visit the samatters.com website and click on the Contact Us link. If you're new to the podcast, you've got some homework to do by going back and listening to past episodes. I've released a new episode of this podcast every Tuesday, never missed a week, for more than 3 years. No other podcast focused on improving safety even comes close to this track record, and I do this for you, the listeners of this show. You truly inspire me. And let me say this, I'm here for the long run, and for so long as I'm able, I'll continue to share this message, a message of hope, a message of inspiration, and a message of encouragement for everyone who works in high-risk environments. I want to make sure you know how to develop and maintain strong situational awareness, and you know how to make quality, high-risk decisions. And I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival and helping you accomplish the most important mission of all. Always the most important mission, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you today from Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm in town to deliver a full-day situational awareness program for the Norfolk County Fire Chiefs Association. I do want to pause for a moment and thank Ben Adelman for the opportunity to deliver 2 situational awareness programs for employees of Phillips 66 Refinery during the month of November. Yes, situational awareness is important for factory, industrial, and refinery employees too. And we've got you covered. We do programs for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. I also want to thank Syncrude Canada, a division of Exxon, for the opportunity to consult with your safety personnel on how to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for your refinery operators. You've heard me mention that I did a 2-day situational awareness program in Evansville, Indiana, where the Evansville Fire Chief, Mike Conley, did an amazing job of getting sponsors. Chief Conley's efforts for 2 days of training and getting sponsors resulted in a zero cost to his department for this training. That's right, it didn't cost him anything. He paid for everything with sponsorships. I tell departments all the time, if you want to host great training, mine or someone else's, at no cost, get some sponsors. This suggestion is usually met with skepticism. But in Chief Conley's case, he just said, show me how. And I showed him how. And Chief Conley went out and asked for sponsors. And then he came back and he told me it really wasn't that hard to get some financial assistance. Sponsors included the Vectron Electric and Gas Company, Deaconess Hospital, University of Southern Indiana, Evansville Firefighters Credit Union, Old National Bank, Global Emergency Products, Hoosier Fire Equipment, Mission Barbecue, Public Safety Medical, and Siegel's Uniforms. And when he was done, Chief Conley was able to raise $15,000. That paid for the program, a situational awareness book for everyone, the venue, lunch for all the attendees both days. And because all of that didn't cost $15,000, he had money to put toward a future program. And that's what he's done. He's scheduled 2 more programs with me in 2018, a full-week leadership development program and a 2-day situational awareness program. And he was able to go out and get additional sponsors for that training as well. I tell departments with limited budgets all the time, if that's the way to go. And it is. If you want to host a program but you have limited resources, contact me, and I'll help you to do what Evansville did. And maybe you can host a program that costs your department nothing. I always say, where the will is strong, a way can be found. This training on situational awareness is a game changer. And how do I know that? Because attendees tell me all the time. They tell me during programs, they tell me at breaks, they tell me at lunch, they tell me at the end of the day. They send me emails, they post it on their social media. Understanding how to develop and maintain situational awareness can truly, and I mean truly, save your life. There's no simpler way to say it. One of the questions I get asked all the time by readers and listeners is, when are you going to come to my area, or where are you going to be next? It's a great question, and I've made it really easy to find out. I've created a link on the homepage of the website to all my upcoming events. So just go to samatters.com, click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage, and that'll give you the locations of all the upcoming events. And here's something you should know. If you want to save some money by hosting an event, and seriously, who doesn't want to save money, right? You could host a program at a reduced cost. Maybe you've been listening to podcasts for a while. You've heard me mention companion programs. Companion programs are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program within a couple hours of your department, and you think you might want to tag along as a companion, contact me. You can save as much as 20% off the program cost by being a companion to an existing program. And I do about 100 companions programs so far, and no one's ever complained about saving money. That's what I call a win-win. In today's feature segment, I'm going to talk about how excessive verbal communications, often in the form of radio traffic, can have a devastating impact on situational awareness. And when I'm done with the feature segment, stick around and I'll tell you where you can attend an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event. All right, let's jump into our feature segment on verbal communications overload. In reading casualty reports, you will often see issues related to communications as a contributing factor. Miscommunications, lack of communications, or too much radio traffic, to include overloaded radio channels, are often cited. It is the last of these issues that I want to address. There is an inherent cognitive consequence from too much communications that can impact situational awareness. Essentially, you can stop listening, and it doesn't necessarily happen on purpose. Visual learners. When you are listening to an audible message, be that face-to-face or over a telephone or over a radio, your brain processes those audible messages and turns them into visual images in your brain. Essentially, the message comes into the ears via sound waves. The waves are transformed into electrical impulses in the auditory control center of the brain, and the messages are sent to the visual control center to be processed into visual imagery. For example, imagine you are talking with someone on the telephone about their recent vacation to the beach. In that conversation, they vividly describe the pristine blue waters and the beautiful white beaches. Your brain processes the audible messages and sends it to the visual processing center, where then you are transformed to see images of beautiful blue waters and white sandy beaches, perhaps not unlike the image that I have just added into your mind at this moment. We, humans, are visual learners. Visual processor overload. Problems with communications can occur when you are exposed to too much of it. Your brain can become overloaded. When that occurs, bad things can happen. Think of your visual processor operating like the processor of your computer. The two don't, in reality, work anything alike, but let's just run with that example for a moment. When your computer processor reaches its capacity, it can freeze up. If you're on a PC, you get that little hourglass that kind of flips upside down. If you're on a Mac, you get that gyrating, psychedelic spinning wheel. While the processor is at capacity, there is nothing else you can do but wait for that to get done. If you're typing a document when the processor reaches capacity, the keyboard stops working. You can bang on it all you want, and the characters are not going to show up on your document. Your processor is at capacity. Anything you try to enter at that point will not get processed. Let's apply this example to your brain. Your visual processing center, like your computer, also has limitations. When those limits are reached, it stops accepting new information. Your ears are still working fine. So is your audible processing center. But the visual center is overloaded. When that happens, you get the proverbial cognitive hourglass, or the spinning psychedelic wheel. Nothing else is getting in until the current load is cleared. When there is a lot of radio traffic, it is easy for your visual processing center to get overloaded because there is so much information coming in. Unfortunately, unlike written information, there's no shortcut to processing audible information. If you look at a written document, you can visually scan it and get right to the heart of what you want to know. This is not the same with audible information. You have to listen to it all. Then, and only then, can you determine what was important and what was not. But it still requires the full attention of your visual processor to make that determination. Too much radio traffic. Excessive amounts of radio traffic can, therefore, inhibit your ability to process all of the information. Which information do you listen to and which do you discard or tune out? Unfortunately, your brain's not that good at deciphering and prioritizing in the moment. It's a common misconception that a first responder will hear the critical radio traffic because of the stressed voices of those who are in trouble, and that will alert the listener. It seems plausible until you evaluate how many times radio transmitted maydays are missed the first time they are called. Noise. Noise is the word given to sounds that have no cognitive value. Thus, radio traffic, or face-to-face communications for that matter, that do not provide essential information might be termed noise. How do you tune out the noise? The answer is you can't. Not consciously, anyhow. However, your subconscious brain can tune it out. It's a survival coping mechanism. But your brain does not magically let the important messages in and keep the unimportant messages out. It simply is not that efficient of a gatekeeper. If it were that talented, we'd all be better listeners on and off the emergency scene. The impact on situational awareness. Situational awareness begins with capturing clues and cues in your environment. Radio messages are among those clues and cues. If your brain has reached its cognitive capacity and cannot visualize audible messages, you're going to miss clues and cues. And when you do, your situational awareness can be impacted. Sterile communications, a lesson from aviation. One way the aviation industry has dealt with excessive communications on the flight deck is by using a concept they term sterile flight deck. During the most critical segments of flight, that's takeoff and landing, pilots are not permitted to talk about anything that is not mission critical. This reduces the possibility of visual processor overload. Once the plane is safely on the ground or safely above 10,000 feet, the sterile flight deck rule is lifted. Put it to the test. This concept is easy to test. Simply put 3 people in a room with a radio. Give the radio to one person and tell that person it is his or her job to listen to the radio and remember what is said. You can even let them write things down if you want. Put 2 other people in the room and have them carry on a loud conversation, including laughing, saying randomly unexpected things, and interrupting the radio listener several times during the exercise. During the exercise, use the radio to communicate 7 scripted messages in succession, each about 20 seconds long and full of information, some important and some not. This simulates an emergency scene or the response to an emergency in an apparatus. When the exercise is done, give the radio listener a test and see how he or she does. Then, make the environment sterile and repeat the exercise. No extraneous noise. You can see how the same person and a new script, or a new person with the same script, can compare. See how the results vary. If the sterile environment resulted in just one more additional piece of information being remembered, that's huge, because that one piece of information may be a mayday. For emergency services, the solution may come from aviation. Control the amount of audio messages coming into your brain and reduce the possibility of communications overload. One way to do this is to create a sterile communications environment. This starts from the time the call comes in and does not end until the incident is stabilized. No one is operating in a hazardous environment. This includes the elimination of all chatter in the apparatus while on the way to a call. If the communications is specific to that call and important, it is shared. If not, save it until the incident is stabilized. For radio communications, train personnel on what is important communications and what is noise. Practice communicating essential messages in short, concise ways. Long, extended radio diatribes are just added words that the brain must process into meaning, and it increases the potential for overload. Team leaders and supervisors can reduce the impact of communication overload by having someone else listen to the radio on his or her behalf. While it may be a little uncomfortable at first, it can be very beneficial to have someone filter out all the noise and only tell the supervisor the need-to-know information. I have a favor to ask of you. You, the one listening to the podcast right now. You, the one on the treadmill while you're listening to the podcast. Or you, the one driving your car while you're listening. Or you, the one walking your dog while you're listening. Or even you, the one falling asleep while you're listening to this episode. Wake up! I need you to do me a favor. I launched this podcast to give a voice to those who've experienced near-miss events. The stories that have been shared with me at live events have been amazing and very educational. In case you missed some of the previous near-miss event episodes, go back and listen to them. Some of them are absolutely bone-chilling. We need to get more of these lessons shared with a larger audience. So if you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, contact me by visiting the SAMatters.com site and clicking on the Contact Us tab. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your on-the-job near-miss event could save someone else's life. That's really powerful. What a wonderful gift that would be. If you want to share your experience, reach out to me. On the day this episode airs, I'll be delivering 2 programs for the All Hazard Incident Management Team Association Conference in San Diego. This will be my 2nd year in a row contributing to that conference, and my presentation last year scored me an invitation to present to the Fire Department of the City of New York, FDNY, Incident Management Team last May. One of the conference attendees, FDNY IMT Deputy Planning Section Chief Shane Mooney, was in the audience and immediately invited me to New York. It was quite an honor to present to the 300-plus members of the FDNY Incident Management Team. If you want to attend an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event, you can join me December 7 and 8 in Niagara Falls, Ontario, December 9 and 10 in Woodstock, Ontario, December 11 in Canfield, Ohio, December 12 in Wintersville, Ohio, December 13 in Elyria, Ohio, also December 13 in Solon, Ohio, December 14 in Solon, Ohio again in the evening, September 14, 15, and 16 in Twinsburg, Ohio. January 11 and 12 in Henrico, Virginia. January 20th in BX Swan Lake, Alberta, Canada. January 21 in Penticton, Alberta, Canada. January 23 through 25 in Scott Township, Indiana. January 27 in St. Louis, Michigan. January 29 to February 2, a full week in Evansville, Indiana, doing company officer development leadership. And February 3rd in Swissville, Pennsylvania. Remember me talking about companion programs earlier and saving money? That's what they're doing in Ontario. Those 2 program hosts are companions. That's also what they're doing in all those programs in Ohio. They're all companions. It just happened again in Alberta in January. Seriously, folks, if you want to get some great training and save some serious money, I have one word for you. Companion program. All right, 2 words, I guess. If you want to see all the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops, head over to the SA Matters website. Click on that blue box on the right side. The schedule's always changing, so check back often. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop program, I'm actively booking for 2018 now and even some programs into 2019. If you think your company, agency, association, regional conference, state conference, or national conference might want to have a program on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, just go to SAMatters.com and click that Contact Us tab. I have some great staff and they'll make the whole process easy for you. I promise. The last time I delivered programs in southwest Minnesota, I stopped by and visited the sponsor of this podcast show, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire is a fire truck manufacturing company that makes amazing all-poly-bodied fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. If you want to check them out, and you need to check them out, go to MidwestFire.com. That's MidwestFire.com. Anyhow, while I was there, I got a chance to sit down and talk to some of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Let's listen into the conversation I had with engineer Tyler LeBrun as he talks about the differentiation between Midwest Fire and their competitors. Let's listen in. So, Tyler, what differentiates the manufacturing process here at Midwest Fire as, say, compared to the competitors who build fire trucks as well? What makes you stand out in comparison?
I don't really know exactly what kind of systems the other competitors have in place, but the one thing that I really think that sets us apart, that I've seen in the side of the manufacturing field, is trying to implement and adhere to some different lean ideologies. And that being said, lean manufacturing really helps us deliver a better quality product more efficiently with less waste to the customer. And also on the other side of that, I think the team that we have here, our manufacturing team and all the people that we have, with the way we work together, the teamwork that we have, and everybody's positive attitude. And it may sound kind of cliche, but the can-do spirit that we have, I think, really helps us, separate ourselves from the competition.
But I think one thing too that I noticed when we were touring around on the shop floor is, as I looked around, I didn't see hundreds of employees. This is not a company that employs hundreds of people. It's an employee it's a company that employs a small number of employees with a great deal of dedication, and obviously that lends some to this teamwork and this sense of family that is going on here that might actually be an asset compared to a large company where an employee just might be a number.
Exactly, most definitely, and that's something that we see is all of our employees are able to work together to build these trucks, because it's not something that they're just going to sit in their station and only do their work. If they see that somebody else needs help, they're going to go over there and help them do that, help them get ahead in their part of the process so that the product can keep flowing through the manufacturing floor.
Nice, thank you. So that's really example of what separates Midwest Fire on the manufacturing side from their competitors. So check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison, and all your staff for your awesome commitment for improving first responder safety. I really appreciate your support of my mission. Hey, if you're not part of the SA Matters community of learners yet, what are you waiting on? There are over 50,000 people connected here through the newsletter, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to train employees to be critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. If you want to sign up for my newsletter, I have a really easy way for you to do that. Just get out your smartphone and text SA Matters to 22828. That's the letter S as in Sam, the letter A as in Adam, and the word matters. All together, one word, SA Matters, to 22828. You get a message back on your phone about getting access to my program handouts, and you can just consider that a bonus for signing up. You get to see the handouts and see the kind of things that I'm teaching in live events. If you want to get connected with me on Twitter, follow @RichGasaway on Twitter. If you want to get connected with me on LinkedIn, you can search Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. If you want to watch my videos, you can go to the YouTube channel, SA Matters TV, all together, SA Matters TV, one word, on YouTube. And you can get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page. Finally, if you know of a business that would like to get the information of their product or services into the ears of my podcast listeners, ask them to contact me. This podcast has enjoyed over 250,000 downloads. I also show my love to the sponsors by sending out information on my social media. During my recent world tour, I wore clothing items from my podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire, and shared pictures of me wearing their garb in Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Will it get them more business? I don't know. But I'll tell you this, they've been the sponsor of this show for over 3 years now. So I'm guessing it has some value getting my mission and their message connected. If you know an advertiser that'd like to have that, have them contact me. Well, that's it. Episode 189 is complete. Thank you to our awesome podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all of the companies, agencies, organizations that have hosted live events. Thank you to all those who have attended the virtual training events. Thank you to the more than 1,000 students that have enrolled in the Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners of this podcast show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I'd really appreciate your support of my mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.